Welcome back. We're dealing today with number 7 in the Constitution on the Sacred Liturgy. Father Rocco O'Connor, Timothy Johnston, and we're going to go through this thing. Timothy, why don't you read through this and then we're going to delve into it. This has got a lot of beef in it.
There's definitely a lot in here, so as we read, pay attention.
There we go.
To accomplish so great a work, Christ is always present in his church, especially in her liturgical celebrations. He is present in the sacrifice of the Mass, not only in the person of his minister, the same now offering through the ministry of priests who formerly offered himself on the cross, but especially under the Eucharistic species. By his power, he is present in the sacraments, so that when a man baptizes, it is really Christ himself who baptizes. He is present in his word, since it is he himself who speaks when the Holy Scriptures are read in the church. He is present lastly when the church prays and sings. For he promised, "Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them." Christ indeed always associates the church with himself in this great work wherein God is perfectly glorified and humanity is sanctified. The church is his beloved bride who calls to her Lord and through him offers worship to the eternal Father. Rightly then, the liturgy is considered as an exercise of the priestly office of Jesus Christ. In the liturgy, the sanctification of humankind is signified by signs perceptible to the senses and is effected in a way which corresponds with each of these signs. In the liturgy, the whole public worship is performed by the mystical body of Jesus Christ, that is, by the head and his members. From this, it follows that every liturgical celebration, because it is an action of Christ, the priest, and of his body, which is the church, is a sacred action surpassing all others. No other action of the church can equal its efficacy by the same title and to the same degree.
Yeah, this does have a lot in here. So what are some of the things you'd highlight for us here, people who've been reading it?
There's a lot to highlight.
Yes.
So the first part of the article really identifies 4 presences of Christ. And so I want to just name those. The first, the presence in the sacrifice of the Mass, the Eucharistic species itself. Number 2, Jesus is present in the sacraments. Number 3, Jesus' presence in the word proclaimed at the liturgy. And the last one, that Jesus is present when the assembly, when the whole body, the church, is gathered for prayer and song. I think that's really powerful, and we often forget that. Sometimes we just think Jesus is only present in the Eucharist or present in individuals, but this really helps us, see that bigger picture. That when that word is proclaimed, and that's a powerful image, that the living God is speaking to us, is moving within us, resonating within us, calling us to action. In the last part of the article, some of the images that stuck with me particularly is that God is perfectly glorified and humanity is sanctified in this action of the liturgy. Yes. That when we gather in this way, and that the liturgy is not just the priest's responsibility, and it's not just Jesus doing this, but it is Jesus as head of the entire assembly. We've been baptized into this church, into this body. We've died and we've risen with him. And so we are members of this, and we celebrate that liturgy in union with the priest and the whole church around the world. And finally, the last part is that every liturgical action or celebration surpasses all other sacred actions that we can do. It is the highest form of worship. It's the source and the summit of our life together.
Mm-hmm. There is a lot in here like that. I want to come back to one of the things you highlighted was the Christ always associates the church with himself in this great work where God is perfectly glorified and humanity sanctified. We see that a couple times in in number 2 and a couple of the other articles that play out that the statement and purpose of the liturgy is fairly simple in one sense. It's twofold. And as it's described as signified by signs perceptible to the senses, affected in a way that corresponds. That's the classic definition of a sacrament.
Of the sacrament,
isn't
yeah.
it? And earlier we talked about visible, invisible, divine, human.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this helps elaborate a little bit on Article 2 in that particular way. That, I mean, using the example of baptism, maybe in terms of, the water as it's poured over the individual's head, or they're immersed into the water, we visibly can see that. We can visibly experience what that looks like and how one is membered to the church. But what's invisible is what that reality looks like, that mystery, that as we're on our pilgrim journey, we're trying to wrestle with and figure out what does it mean to be membered to the body of Christ. And I think that's a beautiful journey to be walking with other members of the community. And so that's something to continue to wrestle with. What does it mean, that visible and invisible piece of the church?
Yeah, and that's part of this series. We're going to keep looking at this whole journey that the Constitution's taken us on. So thank you for leading us along the way. And we'll be getting on to Article 8 right after this. And so welcome you all to come back and invite you to keep looking at the Constitution along with us. So
Great.
let's go on, Timothy.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
man.
much. Yeah.